Well, I've got some good news coming out of the Lone Star State. But before we get into that, let's lay some landscape a little bit. Even before he took office, and I mean took office, Joe Biden said he would take a more lenient approach to the illegal immigration issue. He ran on dismantling President Donald Trump's immigration policies, and shortly after being inaugurated by force, he signed a series of executive orders to that effect. What his team did not predict being the out-of-touch idiots they truly are, is that Biden's signaling towards an open border approach would motivate tens of thousands of migrants to make their way to the southern border, and yet another migrant crisis is coming to fruition. But Texas Governor Greg Abbott is pushing back. On Saturday, the governor announced Operation Lone Star, which is intended, quote, to combat the smuggling of people and drugs into Texas. This initiative will partner the National Guard with the Texas Department of Public Safety, or DPS, and will involve the deployment of air, ground, marine, and tactical border security agents to certain areas on the southern border. We'll dive into the governor's statements and so much more right after this quick commercial break to pay some bills. After that winter wake-up call and the breakdown of the power grid, nobody can deny we're all quite vulnerable. We saw power grid failures, and severe weather made the food supply chain come to a grinding halt in many parts of the country. And whenever that happens, people suffer. That's why it's smart and fairly easy these days to prepare in advance for those disasters by stocking up on long-term storage emergency food. Food that stays fresh for up to 25 years, so you never go hungry. I strongly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leader in self-reliance. They're the only source I use for emergency food planning. And now you can save $50 off a 4-week supply of delicious meals that give you 2,000 plus calories a day. That's what you'll need to survive the next disaster, and saving $50 is impossible to pass up, but supplies are limited, so go to preparewithresurgence.com and stock up now. That's preparedwithresurgence.com. Or hit that link in the description box and enjoy the peace of mind that comes with being prepared today. Quote, the crisis at our southern border continues to escalate because the Biden administration policies that refuse to secure the border and invite illegal immigration, the governor said in a written statement. Quote, Texas supports legal immigration, but will not be an accomplice to the open borders policies that cause rather than prevent a humanitarian crisis in our state and endanger the lives of Texans. We will surge the resources and law enforcement personnel needed to confront this crisis. Governor Abbot also tweeted out, today Texas launched Operation Lone Star to respond to the border crisis. It deploys National Guard, plus DPS officers, plus air, ground, marine, and tactical border security assets to deny Mexican cartel and smugglers the ability to move drugs and people into Texas. Now, Abbott's declaration came amid a drastic surge in illegal border crossings that began soon after Biden took office. As I mentioned last week, this increase pushed the White House to reopen the detention centers used to house migrants under the Trump administration, despite the Democrats' and activist media's previous criticism of the policy. Representative Henry Cuellar of Texas noted that Border Patrol agents detained about 10,000 migrants in the Rio Grande Valley sector during a 7-day period. Quote, we are weeks, maybe even days away from a crisis at the southern border. Inaction is simply not an option, Cuellar said in a written statement. Quote, our country is currently unprepared to handle a surge in migration in the middle of a pandemic. Now, Breitbart News reported that COVID-19 tests are being conducted at a bus station in Brownsville, Texas. About 6% of the migrants crossing the border test positive for the bat stew flu. City officials are saying that they don't have the power to prohibit those who test positive from border buses to travel into the United States. Cuellar called on the Biden administration, quote, to listen and work with the communities on the southern border who are dealing with this surge of migrants. So the situation at the border has become worse over the past couple of months, especially when it concerns unaccompanied migrant children. Quote, driving the news. In the week ending March 1st, the Border Patrol referred to HHS custody an average of 321 children per day, according to documents obtained by Axios. So that's up from a weekly average of 203 in late January and early February, and just 47 per day during the first week of January, according to Axios. Yeah, I would say so. Going from 47 a day to 321 children a day, that's up a little bit. Also, according to the documents received by Axios, quote, the shelter system is at 94% occupancy and expected to reach its maximum this month. Additionally, the number of migrants held in Border Patrol custody longer than 3 days has been rising nearly each day, according to the report. The fact that the Biden administration didn't anticipate this problem at all is truly telling. A mustard seed's worth of common sense would have told them their promoting of open borders policies would have sent up a bright and shiny go sign for migrants everywhere to get their asses across the border and cross it now. But many of those traveling to our southern border are not even hiding their intentions or their inspiration in doing so. Only a few days ago, news broke of a large group of migrants demonstrating at the border wearing t-shirts which said, quote, Biden, please let us in. The White House's policies regarding immigration are surely going to create a much bigger problem, one which Americans will not forget. Despite the Democrats' criticism of Trump's immigration policies, the public supported several aspects of his tougher stances on the issue. The in-your-face truth is that the majority of Americans do not support open border policies. Nevertheless, the Democrats in all their arrogance continue to push this agenda despite the opinions of the rest of the nation. Now, will they regret it in 2022 and 2024? Not likely under current election law in certain states. Speaking of which, if you're watching this on Sunday evening, maybe check out the Gateway Pundit. There's some very interesting things going on down in Arizona, in Maricopa County. Where was I? Oh, okay. On a good note, if Governor Abbott is successful in slowing the flow and keeping his border community safe, things could get really interesting. So think about this, and full disclosure, I'm really hoping this collection of America's most corrupt, lazy, and ineffective morons we now call a current administration tries to push back on Texas. Please, Joe, please mess with Texas. The rest of the country really needs this right now. Because we need to keep perspective here. Abbott just lifted the entire state out of lockdown, for crying out loud. As Biden's migrants, and that's what we're calling them because they wear Biden t-shirts, are flowing into our southern border from God knows where. Now, we must not forget that this worthless moron that can't even address his own leftist press corps, for crying out loud, and his administration can't get their shit together enough to even test these people as they cross our southern border. Not to stumble down a rabbit hole here, but I know I mentioned earlier that they were testing migrants coming off a bus in a small town in Texas. That is the small town testing the migrants, not the Border Patrol agents. They are not testing them at the border. They have nowhere to isolate them or quarantine them for 14 days either. The reason we should all be excited about Abbott's approach to this situation is that this should embolden all states to fight back against this woke administration. This administration has shown at every turn that they can't chew gum and they can't walk, and they damn sure can't chew gum and walk at the same time. This is a dumber and slower and arguably more racist administration than the Obama years. What Governors Nome and DeSantis and Abbott are actually doing here is showing the way to other states to push back. Remember not too long ago when Biden had the nerve to issue empty threats about travel bans to Florida? We could be seeing something very special created here, folks. Now, only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, something has got to give. Some of this came by way of redstate.com. If you liked it, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everybody for all your donations. They're much needed and much appreciated. Now, with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.